old man's perspective, I've seen a bunch here. If you look at what Apple does, Apple's got 60-70% of the market, and there's places on Apple to leave ratings and reviews. On the other platforms, there really aren't. And so in the early days, what people would do is they'd say, Alex, you take and you get as many ratings reviews as you can. That is a signal to the algorithm that you should be found and maybe be the focus podcast of the month or something. And so I think that was true in the early years, but now there's just so many podcasts on Apple. Now I think they take that in effect. And most people who study this seriously, business to business podcasts, they say, well, it doesn't have the impact it once did. However, from my perspective, I think you got to appeal to the human as well as the algorithm. And I think in an Apple, you appeal to the algorithm by having regular shows. But I think the human, if Meg's debating whether or not to listen to my podcast, she can go, well, I don't know, 5 or 6 people listen to it. It must be okay. And so I think it's important to grease the skids for people wanting to listen to your podcast. Now, I would like to amplify this with others and go, well, what about ratings and reviews beyond Apple? What about ratings and reviews on your show notes page? What about ratings, reviews on your LinkedIn profile, talking about what a great podcast you have? And I think the basis is Apple, and we can get everyone's opinion on that. But I want to build on that, especially in business. I do business to business podcast, especially in that area where people can go, oh, Rob, oh, he's doing that swimming. Oh, I didn't know that. And someone else, Meg says he's great. Well, hey, I trust Meg. I don't trust Rob. And so that's my 2 cents on ratings and reviews. And to tell you the truth, I've launched podcasts in the past, and I've given people Starbucks cards in order to give me a recommendation just so I get it going. And got a lot of college kids drank a lot of coffee on me for a few years there. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's really good. Appreciate that. I've got some thoughts as well in a moment, but anybody else like to jump in on this?
This is, sorry, go right ahead, please.
No, go ahead, Alex. I just wanted to say I've had a little bit, experience, and I've had to beg, borrow, steal to get these things. It's like pulling teeth to get people to just even click 5-star, 4-star, whatever.
Yeah.
And that seems like such a low lift, but for some reason people have a hard time doing it, in my experience.
Chad, are you putting the fire on your guests to do that?
I do occasionally. Yeah, I need to do a better job of it. That's a good reminder. Thanks, Rob.
I mean, there's your natural, and usually they're somewhat beholden to you. By the way, they won't always do it anyway, but it's a nice place to start. Alexander, you go by Alex or Alexander?
Typically just by Alex is fine.
Okay. All right. Go. You had something to throw in.
Well, I mean, this was just kind of tying it towards, not market share. What would you say? There's the concept of doing a couple of these shows by Twitch, so that you can actually get like a sort of a listener base while you're doing the actual recording. And if you do that, then you have kind of another chance to reach out, not individually per se, but directly in a way to the audience to say, and once we're done with the session, feel free to leave me a review. Once we have this thing live, make sure click the 1 out of X 5 stars, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Good.
Alex, are you on Twitch?
I've not really. I've done it once for a charity stream, but it's something that I'm maybe looking to do once I'm able to strike probably 80% of the ums and uhs from my speech. I'm a big fan of editing.
I'm actually somewhat of a fan of ums and ahs as long as they don't overwhelm, because I feel that there's an authenticity to pauses and to reaching for words like I'm doing right now and things like that. But another topic, I'm going to come at you from a different angle. Remember, I'm not the podcaster. I'm just playing one on the podcast today. I'm doing the best I can. I'm a year and 3-4 months at it, but I'm a writer. I write books. The reviews on books are critical. They're really important. And people will, just like when you buy something off Amazon, you jump down and look at the reviews. You tend to you should ignore the ones that aren't verified. And you're looking for, if you bump into a couple bad reviews out of the gate, it will change your buying habit. Anyway, it does change the algorithm with books. There is a whole landslide. Maybe not in podcasting, but let me tell you how I do it with books. And I'm going to encourage each one of you. Now get ready. You might need to take some tea or something because I'm going to make your stomach turn. But you got to go harder to the hoop. You got to go hard for those reviews. People really do mean. They'll look you in the eye. They'll tell you they're going to write a review. You could put them on a lie detector and the needles won't move. They honestly believe they're going to do it. And then they talk themselves out of it. And then they procrastinate and they don't do it. And what are we doing on the other side? We're not really pushing all that hard. If you've got time, I don't want to buy it. But if you would, I mean, with a lot, there's this mission mush. Each time I launched a book, I got more and more aggressive with my requests. In the last book I launched, I actually, at the Writer Center here in Bethesda, I had them up in the seats, about 100 people there. And I said, I don't know how to make this even any clearer. So let's see if this works. And I dropped down to my hands and knees on that stage and said, I am begging you for a review. Did you enjoy the open bar I have here? How the heavy hors d'oeuvres doing? Are you full? All I want is a review. Okay. And people are like, huh. But I just decided I'm not leaving this opportunity anymore. I'm not going to be wishy-washy about this. But I also did one other thing, and I'm going to show it to you. I'll put it up. Let me bring it up on screen here, and then I'll put it in your documents. I'm waiting for it to load. There it is. Okay. So what I did was, remember, I specialize in sales. So when you're a sales guy, what you're trying to do is anticipate objections from your customer. So what's the objection to a review really? Particularly when you're asking somebody who's either been a guest or whatever, they're not writing a review because they don't like you or because you did something that annoyed them. They don't think they're very good at it. They don't know what to write. They think it might be technologically too difficult. So what I did was I started handing out an actual document that, oh boy, I got to wait for approval on that one. Okay. I might just put it in there. I got to get to my phone and do this. My Acrobat wants me to approve every now and then. But what I'm going to put in there, as you'll see, is, and I'm going to stop my share because I don't like the way that worked. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. This is a document that I use. Cannibalize it. If you want a Word version, you can have it. But what it does is it says, okay, I'm going to take you by the hand. Here's where you go. Here, now you'll notice I put my podcast there, but here's the podcast. And just try to make it as easy as possible for them. So in review from Jollis, I'm annoying. I beg. I chew with my mouth open every now and then. That's just because I get very animated when I talk. And I give them a handout. So that they will, so they can't mentally use the excuse, I'm just not good at it. Everybody else will do it. Okay?
It's your subtlety, Rob, that I think they're appreciating.
Yes, I actually bruised my knee. I was so subtle. I hit that floor so hard. It's not something I had practiced. But anyway, that's my 2 cents of, I would encourage you, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I get it when it's just somebody you're meeting in business or whatever. I'm not going to beg that. But we all have a tribe. We got people, we got friends, people that want to see you successful, and they're talking themselves out of it. And one of the reasons is because you're not really talking them into it. Okay, I'm done. Thoughts?
That's really good, Rob. I'm very impressed. Can you promote my podcast?
Can I beg for you? Yeah. For $20, I'll drop on any stage and beg your audience.
There you go.
Anyway,
I have the same, I'm just telling you, I have the same thing. It's not that people don't want to do it, but part of it is a little bit of intimidation, and they don't know that they're going to do a good job, and they feel like they're being judged.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think that's definitely the issue.
Yeah. And if you want to feel some empathy for them, I want each one of you to think of the first time where you might have posted something on LinkedIn, or even go way back if you're on Facebook, first posting on Facebook. Just kind of go back to this first couple. I remember, and I'm a writer, sitting there on LinkedIn going, is that smart enough? Is that long enough? Is that too short? Everyone's going to see this. And then, after a few times, it's like, here you go. That's it. I'm chucking out information. that allows me to be more empathetic for somebody who has never written a review and really in their gut, in their heart wants to do it, but just figures it can go under the radar. Don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't want to disappoint you. I don't know what the heck to write. And we're two ships going like this. So I don't know if I can get to 804, but I'm going stronger. And that means when I launch a podcast, back to you, Chad, if you're a guest of mine on my show, I can't force you to do it, but I'm going to make it real difficult for you not to do it, because I'm not only going to ask you while we're prepping, I'm going to tell you when it's launching. I'm going to come back to you when it launches. I'm sending you a picture of the two of us together. I'm linking you in on LinkedIn with your name. I'm sending you my how to write a review. And as hard as it's the most I can do, but I'm no more Mr. Nice Guy. Sounds like fun to have lunch with me, huh?
Hey, Mr. Nice Guy. Hey, I reviewed a book on Monday, so don't pick on me. I just sent the link to it. It's
There
called
you go.
Gabriel. So, hey, you know.
Good. Well, review one of mine. Okay.
No, I think it's really important. It's also important, I think, for word of mouth. And I think this is a podcast promotion technique that very people realize and emphasize is that and I don't ask aggressively for reviews. Now, I interview different types of people, and sometimes I can't ask for one. Last week, I interviewed a full bird colonel in the Air Force, a big dog. And it was a very stressful interview because he had his handler right there. Anyway, some people you can push, and colonels and generals, yeah, you can't.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Right before this meeting, because I'm still hung up on that 804 to a podcast that just doesn't look like it has much going on with it. How did 804 people review this thing? And it's, there's less than 100, I believe, of the podcast. So I Googled 10 minutes before this meeting, I forgot how I worded it. Basically, can you pay for reviews for podcasts? And the answer is, although I didn't hit a link, I'm afraid I'll get a virus probably if I do. But the answer is, oh yeah, there are companies out there that are offering those services, just like you can pay for a YouTube likes, and just like you can pay for other stuff like that. There's a real ethics thing for me on that one. But your thoughts, opinions, ideas.
Well, one thing that's a simple thing that maybe everybody's thought of, it's so obvious, I probably shouldn't even bring it up, but I'm guilty of this. If people compliment you on your podcast, that should turn into a request immediately. Well, if you really like it, leave a review. And, sometimes I don't do that as
Right.
much and as aggressively as I can. So that's an easy one, because they're already, that they're a verified listener or whatever.
Yeah. I think also, Meg, sometimes the perfect transition in is frequently when we're with a guest, or actually when you're in public, just with people. Whenever somebody says, gosh, thank you for this. What can I do for you? I mean, how many of us been asked that question after a pod? What can I do for you? Get it ready. There is one thing you could do for me. And listen to my words here again, tell it any way you want, but it's not an accident when I go, it would be a personal favor to me and means a great deal if you just take a moment and provide a review. See how different that is in a sense of, I would love for you to give me a review, personal, favor. And these are people that, at least in my world, a lot of times they're looking, do they really want to offer me something, do something nice? And I very frequently go, nah, there's nothing really. It's my pleasure. This is what I do. And now I really try and remember that. That would be something that would really mean a great deal to me. And you see, that's not hidden. Nobody's confused. I'm not sure what Rob really meant by that. Now they have to sleep at night if they don't give me a review. But yeah, don't be afraid of that.
I'm interested. And this is just tangentially related, but you're hosting your podcast, and that typically means that you can go in many different applications to have your listeners tune in. And I was wondering, these reviews, these are mostly for Apple sometimes are on Listen In or something like that. Do you go for all of them? Do you go for all of the different avenues where you can source your show, or do you
Yeah.
stick
I
to
loved
the main
John's
three?
comment about 67% or whatever it was. I didn't know the number, but my guess was you can put them all together and they won't equal apples. So and then we got 6 other people. For me, if the majority of people are listening to Apple and it's a war to get these reviews anyway, that handout that I put in there for you, that PDF, that's the Apple. I'm going to focus there. That's where I want my numbers. But others.
So Rob,
Anyways, yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Alex.
don't know anything about this, so I'm sorry. I'm kind of in listen only mode today. But yeah, but let's go to this 804 guy. You could scroll through and see who his guests were. Do you think he legitimately got 804? And I would say that, I mean, you could probably tell by the type of guest he had whether or not he'd be able to draw that number on his own.
I don't think they got it. Myself, I don't think it's legitimate. But it's impressive. It impressed me.
Right.
And gotcha, John. And one other thing, again, with Apple, with books, verified. Only way I'm going to get a review from you that's verified is if you actually physically buy my book. That's why I don't give away books very often. Not to people that I know and like. Doesn't that sound odd? I give them to people that don't know me real well. Here, I doubt I'll get a review from you anyway, but no, my friends don't get books. But on podcasts, I don't see a verified. I don't see anything like that. So, I think it's a Wild West a little bit. John, you were going to say something.
Well, this is pushing the topic here, but in this list of books behind me, I give a lot of books on search engine optimization, SEO. And in the world of search engine optimization, there's called black hat SEO and white hat SEO, and then gray SEO. And the black hat was done years ago against Google. People would get these link farms from China, and they'd go to the Rob Joels and get 5,000. And then what happened was sooner or later, Google figured it out, and they come up with an update, and they penalize Rob for doing that. And it takes a certain amount of maturity. And I think the fact of the matter is 1 billion blogs out there. There's less than 2 million podcasts. And so in software, this thing's called the maturity level software. So, and the maturity level here is pretty new. And I think what's going to happen is it will come to the point where black hat SEO tactics, like hiring people to link to your blog or hiring people to review it, I think those will be discovered. And I think what Alex said is too, if you look at someone's podcast and you see who the guests are, and you could almost guess. I mean, it's not that hard. So I think in a few years, I think it'll mature and we'll get to the point where they can verify things. But even Twitter, remember Twitter for a long time was the Wild West, and they had the blue check, the verification, huh? And so people are asking that question, and but I maybe it doesn't affect me as much as number of ratings and reviews. Maybe it's your book background, but what I do is I look for the people on LinkedIn, see what the background is, and then decide whether I'm listed or not. Then listen carefully to the opening, the first 2 or 3 minutes. And if I'm hooked, then I'm out. So anyway, that's SEO time. Yeah, we can talk about SEO and podcast promotion if you want, but SEO, black hats, gray hats, and white hats.
Yeah. You said you're pushing a little bit. I'd like to push it just a second. I want to go back to something you said, Meg, because it made me think of something that I'd learned along the way. When somebody compliments you on your podcast, what are the words that you use? And this is for everybody, but there's a way of handling that, and I think it's instinct versus logic. I think our instinct is off when we actually get a compliment. So, when somebody says, Alex S., I heard that podcast yours, and I just want you to know it was really good. How do you handle that? What do you say back?
Well, in all fairness, I have things in the can. I have not put them out there yet.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When you've been complimented,
Um,
this is for anybody. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but I have had people compliment me or say, "Hey, you handled this well," or whatever. So there is enough knowledge. Um, I first of all, I always say thank you. And I just say, look, some of this is just because I love doing this. I started this independently. I do this on the side for fun, and I'm going to do it as long as I keep having fun at it.
Good. Good. Um,
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I say that it really means a lot to me that my work is reaching you and that it had an impact, because you put these podcasts out, and unless you hear specifically from people, or you read someone that has written a review, you don't really know what they think. And it's very important to me to know what people think. So I really appreciate that. And to share what you think with other potential listeners, if you could leave a review of it, that would mean a huge amount to me to help to spread the word, something like that.
Yeah. Well, home run. And so I was trying to trap you all, but there's no trapping you today, because the trap that I always fell into myself, not on a podcast, but being complimented, was for some bizarre reason. I look back on it now, and it's just, I don't know why. It was instinctive for me. I would push it off. It made me uncomfortable. I would say, when I deliver seminars, okay, it's not uncommon. People come up to the stage, whatever. It's like, that really was good. I go, oh yeah, I couldn't believe the switch went off, or one of my slides jammed, or you should see me on a Tuesday. In other words, it's sort of, I'm almost dismissing the compliment. And what both of you have, I think that's more instinctive than when we are aware. It's almost what I call an unconscious incompetency. Sometimes we don't know that we're doing it. And my father-in-law, of all people, told me one time, he said, for them, it takes courage. For them, this was a big moment for them to walk up to Meg and to say that to you, or to Alex, or to Rob, or whoever. And to dismiss it is disappointing for both of you. He said, do what basically you just heard here, which is, even if it's a little uncomfortable, tell them how much that meant to you. And I love, I think you were going for the extra credit with how much it meant to you, and don't forget to leave a rating. So, yeah, I think you were showing off there a little bit, but that said, I just, it's something I learned. It was not instinctive for me. I'm still a little uncomfortable with it, believe it or not. Not with my friends, but when people who I don't know come up and say something. So I'm ready and programmed to block my instinct to dismiss it and tell them that wasn't my best. Normally I'm better. That is not what they want to hear.
I just have a question to throw out to the group. What about asking people to weigh in during the podcast, like at the end of the podcast? Tell them something like, if you like this show, it would mean a lot to me to leave a review or something. What do people, I've certainly, there are plenty of people who do that. I'm not one of them yet, but what do people think?
Well, I have John, the grizzled vet, help me with the words. The lead in and the lead out, there's a name for it. What are they, like the little bumper in and a bumper out? What do they call that?
They're called bumpers, or exactly that. They're just.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. So I actually had somebody record those, and I drop them in before every podcast once I do my editing. So my ending bumper is, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, rate, review, and it just goes. It's kind of zippy. I don't always know who's still there, catching that really good ending. But yeah, I have somebody else's voice saying that, not mine. Go ahead, John.
In sales circles, Rob, there's a book called The Mom Test. I don't know if you've heard about it. And here's the guy who wrote it. He would pitch people on a startup. He'd pitch Alex and go, Alex, what do you think? Alex would say, that's a great idea, Rob. And he'd walk out and think it was great, and no one would buy it. And you go
Right.
up to your mom and you go, what do you think, Mom? Oh, Rob, you're the greatest. Great. And so yeah, I think what this guy says is, if you go up to Meg and you go, hey, I got this product. What do you think? Meg says, oh, it's great. Then would you buy it? Well, I'm not going to buy it, but I'm going to tell you it's great because I'm going to see you at Thanksgiving and I don't want you to throw a glass of wine at me. And so I think this is the edge Rob's talking about. The edge is going to the basket. The edge is, well, actually, you like it? Well, yeah. Would you buy it? Well, hey, watch it there, Buster. So I think this is very uncomfortable. And it's in a social situation, you wouldn't push those bounds. But I think if you want to break through to success, I think you have to push those bounds and I love this book. It's a short book. It's a 90-page book, self-published, but it has exact questions to ask. If someone throws you, he says, just, take and deflect that comment and move into something else. And it's hard to do. And Rob's right. I think you have to be disciplined and maybe rehearsed to take and redirect that compliment. Anyone else? Chad, what do you think?
I think, well, I identify with what Rob's talking about with the deflecting of compliments. I do not take compliments well at all. I usually think, what is wrong with this idiot that they think that was good? So that's my instinct, is to deflect. And I just, like you said, that this went wrong, that point out everything that went wrong.
Right. It almost feels comfortable, doesn't it, Chad? I mean, it's and then when you really dismantle it, that's what I said, instinct versus logic. It's such an illogical response.
You're totally right that's not what they want to hear. Like,
no.
That is not why they came up to you and said, hey, that really meant something to me.
Right. You're almost, I see it physically, but you're almost physically having them drop their head, turn around, and be sorry they walked up to compliment you. It was embarrassing. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed them. I'll never do that again. So, it's, my father-in-law, when he was talking to me about it, was like, yeah, completely missed that. I always thought, I'm humble. I'm you're going to like me even better when you hear how crappy I'm going to tell you I am. Totally not what they want to hear.
So let me just change directions just a shade, because I think if we're talking about reviews, essentially we're talking about traffic, and I think this is why I haven't launched my podcast officially yet. I mean, you can find it on iTunes and stuff like that, but it's a shell. And my big thing is, I'm listening to the ideas, and everybody has great ideas, and I'm doing what everybody's saying right now, but we're talking about one, or getting to one person or 5 people or whatever. And I think if you're gonna drive viewership, we've got to figure out a way to do things in scale. And when I look at what I'm doing right now, is I've got some good content in the bag. And what I'm trying to do is to reach out. I'm actually physically writing articles right now to not promote anything that I'm doing. I'm basically writing it as a journalist. We'll say reviewing the piece or something like that. So I'm trying to get as much kind of dissemination out there as possible, to then drive viewership, and then viewership should be, there's probably a number, right? For every 50 people that watch, one will review. So I don't know what that ratio is, but if you can intrigue people to want to say, hey, I should check out that episode. This is where he talks about having a mental health issue, or hey, like, just pick out one little thing. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the clickbait kind of stuff. What did they divulge, or what can you spin that does not would not offend the guest? So anyway, that's the stuff I'm working on.
Oh boy, we're getting crashed.
Yeah.
we
we
are.
may have to pull out, and I may have to change our invite. Yeah, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. There's no reason for. Hi, everybody who's coming in now. I got crashed on another meetup the other day. I don't really know where. I think you're going to see where this is not going to work out in a moment. We'll see, but be prepared to bail. And next month I'll swap out and create a new link and do all that nonsense. But that's the problem with reusing links.
Well, thanks, Rob. This was helpful. There was some good stuff in here. I appreciate it. And this is good, all good reminders that
Good.
we need to work harder at this. It's
All
for
right.
me, especially.
Good. And Alex, back to you. I agree about scale. We talked a couple of meetings ago about how to kind of scale up. So it's sort of a 1A and a 1B.